What's going on YouTube? And I am the Masked Man, and I am here today for another mid-season television review. It's where I review a show and during the halfway mark or about the halfway mark of the show, and just say different things that I feel about it before I do the full season review. Now, today I want to talk about The Player. And if you're a fan of The Player, I'm afraid I got some bad news. They say that The Player has been getting low ratings and they cut some of the episodes. They cut 13 and they taken them down to 10. And in all likelihood, The Player is in its first and final season, which is a shame. I really like The Player, even though I came into the show late. I do think that it was a decent show, but I think it suffered from bad promotion and a bad time slot. One of the reasons I didn't check out The Player is because I was misinformed about what the show was about through the ads of the show. When I looked at the ads of the show, it said that Wesley Snipes, Mr. Johnson, in the show, that his character was a part of an organization who bet on crime, and Philip Winchester, Alex Kane, his character, they were betting on whether or not he could get away with crime. See, I thought the premise of the show was they were going to set up criminal acts for Alex Kane to commit, and he had to commit crimes and get away with crimes every week. And I thought maybe the reason that they were doing this because they had some kind of leverage over him, or they had somebody in his family held hostage, some reason to justify why he would be committing crimes. And while he's committing these crimes, he would be trying to work against the organization. And from my perspective, that was dumb as hell. I didn't want to watch a man get away with ridiculous crimes every week for 44 and a half minutes plus commercials. That just seemed dumb. But in actuality, he wasn't in the show. He's not actually the one committing the crimes. He's the one who's trying to prevent the crimes from happening. And the gamblers are betting on whether or not he's going to be effective at stopping the crime from occurring, which is a little bit more interesting. Now, the show, in the first episode, they have him and his wife, or him and his ex-wife are trying to get back together, and somebody breaks into his house and kills his ex-wife. Just for the record, I am currently in episode 6 of season 1. They say they're going to cut off the show in episode 10, so I'm more than halfway through the show. So they killed his wife, and he feels grief about it. And his black friend, Detective Cal Brown, is charged with investigating the crime. And he gives them the typical, this doesn't look good for you speech. Nobody corroborates your story speech. And I had a bit of an issue with this, because I can understand a cop wanting to do his job. And I can even understand that maybe he was also friends with the deceased uh lady, with his ex-wife. But they went through a lot of trouble in the show to make these guys look like close friends, to make these guys appear to be close. And if he's not only going to arrest his best friend or his friend and pursue this case, pursue the case of Alex Kane's dead wife, and even continue to pursue what Alex is involved with after he's exonerated, and just following this case as far as it'll go. If he's that hell bent on getting to the truth, then they shouldn't have made them friends, because he's not doing something that a friend or a best friend would do. That's not something that a friend or a best friend would do. If somebody if if a friend of yours lost a spouse and they look guilty, if they're your friend and you've known them for a number of years, whatever you find out about them, you're going to want to give them the benefit of the doubt. You're going to want to give them the benefit of the doubt. You're going to want to try to go out of your way to believe that they're innocent. And at the very least, if they actually get away with it, if they actually are exonerated, you're just going to let it go. You may drift apart. You may not be as close as you were, before the whole incident happened. You may have your suspicions, but even if you were a cop, once the case is closed, once all the evidence is in, once everything is finished, you're going to let it go. You're going to write it off. So I feel like if they were going to go that route with Detective Kyle Bryant, played by Damian Gupton, if they were going to go that route with his character, they should have had a more antagonistic relationship. He should have resented the fact that this guy was in private security, that he was some sort of vulture preying on the vulnerabilities of wealthy people, and making law enforcement look bad, like they were incompetent, or something along those lines. It's like some kind of antagonism between the two of them. Maybe they had a bit of a rivalry. They didn't like each other, but they respected each other and they stayed out of each other's way. Something along those lines. But for him to do a 180 and to be so hell bent on catching him and finding out what he's doing, I feel like that's kind of a plot convenience, because no friend would act the way that he's acting. No friend would be so determined to find out what his friend is doing. It just didn't sit well with me. The show in some ways is similar to The Blacklist, because the premise of the show is to take down people who the police or the government, either would not take down, who they will not take down or cannot take down, or don't know about at all. So they have information that the police aren't privy to. They see crimes before they happen, or potential crimes. And Alex Kane is tasked at trying to prevent these crimes from occurring. So I like that aspect of the show, but one thing I don't like about the show is that there's supposedly this massive organization. It's they have all of these resources. They can pretty much buy Alex whatever he needs to do these jobs. When uh, Cassandra King, played by Charity Whitfield, first met Kane, she showed up in a car to rescue Kane from the hospital, and as soon as they read her plates, the entire police force ran away. That indicates that this organization has an insane amount of power and clout, that they are pretty much untouchable. But what you do not see is, their military might. You don't like Wesley Snipes in the course of the show goes on different jobs and he regulates people. It's like he's killed about two or three people up to this point with his bare hands. He walked into a club and act like he was a gambler who couldn't pay his debts, and his debts were automatically forgiven after he whooped the asses of the two or three security who brought him in to see the boss. He killed one of his former friends, and he killed a serial killer. So that's three, and maybe he's killed more that I'm leaving out, and maybe he will kill more before the show ultimately ends. But what you do not see is like, okay, this one guy is walking around whooping everybody's ass, but why don't they just shoot this guy in the head? It's like, what is you don't have any indication of the repercussions for killing Snipes' character. Like, what is it about him that makes him so powerful that nobody would fuck with him? Okay, he's the pit boss. He runs the casino for the gamblers. But okay, what are they gonna do if you fuck with him? What's gonna happen? Like, where I'm asking, where are the other foot soldiers? Where are the other people who are gonna come, who are gonna spring into action if you do anything to Snipes? It's like, what is his power other than being that lone guy that whoops people ass? And I see this a lot with certain TV shows, because they have a small budget. They really can't give you a sense of the scale of a large organization. They really can't present you with like tons and tons of people who are all a part of any particular group. That is really kind of just smoke and mirrors. But there's no smoke and no mirrors. It's just Mr. Johnson going door to door kicking people's asses personally. And I would think that somebody who's so powerful, or who is a part of such a powerful organization, would not have pretended to be Alex's lawyer, would not have shown up and shown himself to Alex's friend who was trying to hack into software. He wouldn't have personally walked into these clubs. He wouldn't have killed the serial killer. It's like, why is he doing all of this himself? Are there like thousands of pit bosses? Like what exact? Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, why is he doing all of this legwork? Now, maybe it's because they just want to give Wesley Snipes screen time and make him a more interesting character than just some guy who's, runs the casino. I get that, but you have to give me an indication of the scale of this organization and why it instills fear in so many people. And I think they did a very poor job in the first and in the only season they're going to get of this show. Now, all in all, I do think this show was good. I did like this show. I thought it was a very enjoyable show. I wish it could have made it. I wish it would have had an opportunity to explain some of the things that bothered me, to deal with some of the things that bothered me. Um, I wish that they would have given it the best opportunity to shine, but that's not to be, you know. And I'm certainly far from big enough to save the show on my own. But if you don't have a chance to check out the show, I definitely think that it's worth watching. I haven't given anything a rating, in these last few videos because I've been too focused on getting my points across. But in the midway point of the player, it is very watchable. It's a very watchable show. It's good and entertaining. I wish it could have made it. I think it was a great premise. I think the premise should have been explained better in its promos. I'm sad that they're breaking up the Strike Back team, because Philip Winchester and give me a second. Philip Winchester and Sullivan Stapleton were both on a show called Strike Back, and I think that show was either on HBO or Showtime. I didn't get to see it on TV, but the public library did have a couple of their seasons on DVD, and I checked it out, and it was a halfway decent show. I checked out seasons 1 and 2 of Strike Back, and it was halfway decent. And I found it kind of funny that they put both actors from that show in 2 different shows on the same network. I just found that funny. Like, I don't know if things happen like that very often, but that was just funny to me. But anyway, that's all I have to say about the player. I think if you have the opportunity, you should check it out. When it comes out on DVD, you should buy it. Maybe you should start some kind of a campaign to get a movie made on it. I think it would make I don't know if that would make a good movie series, but I think it would be good if you started some kind of a petition to get it to show up on Netflix or something, because I think it's a show that's worthy of having a respectable ending, that is worthy to having a wrap up. And I hate that it didn't get a chance to shine. Let me know what you thought about my review. Do you agree? Do you disagree? How do you think I'm doing? As a television and movie reviewer, do you have any suggestions on how I can improve? Like, dislike the video, subscribe to my channel. Let me know if there's anything in the media that you want me to talk about. Television, movies, news articles. I will talk about damn near anything except relationships, because I don't know anything about that. Anyway, I am the Masked Man. If you have anything that you want me to know, email me at mrmaskmansbusiness@gmail.com. That's all I have for the player, and I will see you in the next video.